Welcome again to our new episode of The Green Deal. And this week, with my friend Raj, we just wanted to have a drink.
Yeah.
Cheers.
Cheers.
And talk about random stuff that goes around, of course, climate,
Sure.
finance, but really normal stuff. So I love talking with Raj, and I wanted you guys to have an opportunity to see the type of discussion that we're having sometimes.
I'm not an expert at all on climate change.
And that's why
I want to ask you some questions because I have no idea.
That's why we want you here, because there's so many people who talk about random stuff, and it can be quite hairy,
Right.
this topic, and we want to really grab that point of things that we talk about around dinner,
Right.
around drink,
Right.
right? So today, what's up, Raj?
Well, last time we had dinner and we were talking about this, and it's good. It's good to be on the show, and thanks, John, for inviting me. I mean, my challenge is I'm in business, and of course I know about climate change and I know about all of this stuff, but I have no idea how to navigate it. And now the industry is a little bit more mature, still in its infantile stages, but more mature enough where we're kind of seeing what's bullshit and what's not. But I'm also getting things from all over the place. I don't really know how to navigate it because it's
so much news.
And it's very polarized, right? So it's either like this is bad or that's bad. Like one example is I want to talk to you, and actually I wanted to get your advice about it. Is like carbon offsetting.
Right.
So this is something I've been hearing for years, and it was
big topic.
It was like the coolest thing to be in this space, and I knew friends and who were regulating it, and then now it's turned into this weird. It goes two ways, right? It's either okay, this is great, and this is the way for these startups to work, or it's these companies are just doing whatever they want, and they're just throwing money at these carbon offsets, which aren't doing anything. I have no idea how to navigate this.
Right.
So I wanted to ask for your advice.
And you look at that for your family, you want to offset your own carbon footprint, or your daughter, or
I don't know what I'm supposed to do.
Because you can actually offset your cat's footprint if you want.
That's great. That's great. But what does that mean? Right. What does that mean? Because I'm an end-to-end guy. Right. I see things build. So when I see something new, like an electric car, right? I don't see the electric car compared to my car. I see the factory going into building that car and mining for the batteries, and then how do you recycle that, and blah blah blah, and jobs and this and that. It's complicated. So for carbon offsetting, I kind of how do I start thinking about this? How do I look into these things? If I do something, I don't want to just feel good and make the world a worse place. Right.
But why do you want to offset then? At the first place, I want to ask you that question.
Yeah.
Why do you want to offset your carbon footprint?
Well, right now for me, what I'm seeing is it's the easiest way to get into kind of helping the environment.
So you want to feel that you are doing something.
Well, I want to do something.
Right.
The problem is if I feel like I'm doing something, but I'm not very confident about it, it's just easier for me to do nothing.
Yeah.
Right? So then, okay, I feel guilty, but I haven't spent any money, and I'm not going out of my comfort zone.
Right.
Now I'm going out of my comfort zone, and I'm kind of exposing myself because maybe I'm harming the environment more.
Right.
Maybe I'm helping the environment.
With this new car.
Should I tell anybody about this? What do I do?
Nice car, by the way.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, I mean, this it's very interesting for us to really take that as an individual. You're a dad,
Right. I am.
and we're not going to talk about companies yet.
Okay.
But just as a dad, of course, you have your daughter, your wife, and you think, all right, no, I'm gonna drive this car, and I'm having all this setup.
Right.
You have this house, etc. So, and you can see that the environment is changing, and you want to do something.
Right.
So lately, a lot of platforms have emerged. That actually are pitching this very sentiment, right? And enabling you to offset your carbon footprint by first calculating it, So and then they will tell you, okay, what do you want to offset?
Right.
Right. So there's this very famous platform called YepU in the US, and they are enabling you really to offset anything from yourself to your cat. I'm not kidding.
Which is amazing.
And for I think it's $6 per month,
right,
you can offset your cat. and this is then raising some random question like, is that bullshit?
Yeah. Which is my first question.
Right. And so I'm pretty sure you are a good case study, because all of us, normal people, we're just discovering this stuff.
Right.
And you're like, oh, what? $6 a month to offset my cat? What does it even mean?
Correct.
Right?
Exactly. What does it mean, and how can it be so cheap? And reversing climate change doesn't seem like something that should be convenient, but it's presented in a convenient way.
Yeah.
So I wonder how
do they offset?
How do they offset it?
Right.
How
do they plant a tree that is the weight of your cat?
Right.
What do they do?
Do they have a meter on each tree?
Right.
How much it's offsetting? I don't know. Can you tell me?
So this is a very new market. It's literally emerged a couple of years ago, and this is a $2 billion market right now. So very small. Right? Globally, $2 billion. What we call voluntary carbon offsetting market.
Okay.
It's very, very small.
So there's like a non-voluntary market as well. I mean, that probably.
I don't want to complicate things.
Okay, sure, but so for today we're talking about the voluntary market. Okay.
Yeah. I think it started really with some airlines trying to make themselves feel good.
Okay. Makes sense.
So there you could add $2 or 5 to your flight to offset your flight.
I see. Kind of like save the children at the checkout counter.
Exactly. Save the children, type of thing.
Yeah.
And now it's really becoming something. There's platforms that like that. This one we just mentioned, but also Climeworks that is doing that for individuals as well.
Okay.
There's Pachama, another platform where you can. We literally did this for our class. We paid I think $1,000 to offset our calculated carbon emissions for the year.
Okay.
And you feel good.
Yeah.
But then really, it was too easy.
Right.
There's something weird when things are too easy.
Right. I totally agree.
So I think there's two things we can talk about here: the good thing and the bad thing. Right. So let's start with the good thing.
This drink is getting big.
We're gonna get another one.
Maybe let's start with the bad.
Okay. We can start with the bad thing.
Yeah.
So. Since this is a very small market, there's a lot of opportunistic people who get into it, right? And so we've heard, some tree planting NGOs selling 5 times the one same tree to different people. Yes. We've heard some.
I mean, I'm laughing, but it's horrible, right? It's pretty.
Yeah.
It's scary because nobody knows that's happening, right?
Yeah.
So it's doing the opposite of offsetting. It's making things worse.
We've seen some companies like JP Morgan buying forests and getting carbon credits for it, saying that the forest was about to be cut, and claiming publicly on New York Times that they were now carbon offset. Right. But actually, that forest was already reserved.
So what you're saying? Okay, let me kind of understand that in layman's terms. So what you're saying is, it's not enough to just support a forest or trees or something or plant life that's helping with carbon dioxide, but it has to be offsetting is about making sure those are going to go away, and you're making sure they're not going to go away.
Yeah, and this is about time, right? Because if you plant a tree,
that makes sense, but I'll be honest, it's not like something I would have thought of.
Right.
Like, because this is not like, now that I'm diving into it, maybe I'll get the common sense.
Right.
But it's not something I think about. I
Right.
just think, oh, okay, they're planting trees or they're saving trees. But I don't really think, oh, like, if they don't step in and those trees are going to be fine, they're not really offsetting. I didn't really, like, kind of drill down and think that way.
Yeah, so the monster here is really that this is a good excuse for a lot of companies to keep doing business as they have been doing.
Got it.
Right, and you see some ridiculous stuff announced, like, oh, we are actually completely carbon zero. Apple, Google, all the guys are claiming that. But then in fact, they have just paid some forest to not be cut for 20 years.
Right.
But after that, we don't know what's going to happen to that forest. And anyway, probability of that forest burning with or without their consent is very high because of climate change.
Oh wait, so so if the forest burns, that eliminates the offsetting.
Yeah, right? Of course. But it's a breach of contract.
And
but you know, at that point, you cannot do anything about it. The carbon have been released anyway. So this topic, and that's the monster. The monster I think we're unleashing here is that no matter how many trees you buy, there's no guarantee that this tree will be there 100 years from now.
True.
So those platforms usually commit to support a forest or some part of land for 20 to 50 years.
Okay.
And hence the issuance of a carbon credit.
And then how do they calculate? So I feel like you're about to change topics off of the plants, but say for like a tree, how is that calculated? Like, and where the tree is planted, or the type of tree, or what year? Like, because obviously as the tree gets older, it does more, right? Versus when it's very young. So, and obviously like when it's a seedling, it doesn't really offset anything. So how do they have calculation? You don't have to explain it all here.
This is quite complex, and there's a lot of certification, like ESO type of thing, but for that, and that is very new. So it's a new science really that has been created around that, because there's so much money potentially that's going to go into that. So in the US first, you know, there is a couple of $1 billion that have been unlocked. For anybody to grab, basically. So there's a lot of certification for that. Size of the tree, the area, the rain going to that area, the other type of vegetations and biome in that area. It's really complex, and then you have to go through this process of making a 100-page document, looking at all the factors and variables of that land to get that certificate.
So it's very comprehensive.
It's comprehensive, but this is also where a lot of people get lost, because it's so detailed and so complex that most people won't read it. They don't want to read the 100-page contract with all the details.
5-page contract I make with Google and I get a new app.
So that's where things get lost a little bit in the void. Example with that forest, that JP Morgan. So it sounds good, I'm sure JP Morgan executive genuinely wanted to put down $1 million and buy some forest. But actually, the consulting company they hired just picked up an actual sanctuary. So it was protected by the US government anyway.
Whether they put the money in or not, those trees are going to be doing their thing.
But in the contract, the carbon credit is issued only if the forest is going to be burned, and you're paying to avoid that burning of the forest. So you see, but anyway, I think the monster, as mentioned, is the fire. Really, I think this is really the thing. And even if we were planting trees everywhere on all the surface, out of the sea,
Yeah.
the habitable surface. You replace that, all these shopping malls, all these parkings, all these McDonald's, you replace that by trees.
Yeah.
It's still not enough to actually offset our annual emission of carbon.
Okay.
So you need to know that. Carbon offsetting is maybe.
So is there an offsetting option that's in the that can, or do we just have to stop?
So firstly,
producing so much carbon?
of course, burning forests is not going to help us reduce our carbon emission.
Agreed.
Right?
Yeah.
So we should stop doing that.
Right.
So this is where the good point for carbon offsetting is it's actually going to help people to firstly realize there is values in trees.
Okay.
Because now a tree is worth something.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
More than its raw material.
Right.
Okay.
It's worth, it can be worth a couple of $100.
Okay.
If Apple buys you carbon credits for 1 ton, this can go up to $100.
Okay. Interesting.
So this is a lot of money for a forest where you have 1,000 trees, right? So I think that's a good fit. We finally have a financial incentive to stop burning forests. And that's great.
Yeah.
That's so much needed.
Good.
Right? The second very important thing it's awareness.
Right. Okay.
I think there is the downside of greenwashing as well, but awareness, making the companies actually have to talk about this, because that's a marketing argument. It's not just that.
Yeah.
They have to actually have a meeting about climate
And then
inside the company.
And then who do they go to calculate these things?
So they will go to, there's few companies that are quite famous for that, and they're called registries, carbon registries, and they are actually validating those projects. What's the qualification? Do they get the certificate or not? And then they also do consulting to those companies to analyze, how much per year carbon they emit.
I see.
And they will also send the carbon back to them. So one very famous one is called Vera.
Vera. How do you spell Vera?
2R. And there's 4 or 5 of them, but Vera is the reference in the market because they are known to be very hard to get the certification. So they cut the bullshit, right?
Good. I mean, is that good, or do people just hire somebody else?
So
because this is voluntary, correct?
Yeah. So what's happening is since it's a very new market, as mentioned, it's just $2 billion. This is very obscure, right? And everybody tomorrow can start a consulting company saying they're doing it.
Right.
And I think it's going to be the case for probably the next 5 years until the market gets structured. You can already see some companies, raising a lot of money to do those type of things. You're going to see carbon exchanges coming up, like crypto exchanges. Every country will have their carbon exchange. You can be sure of that. But one thing that is different and maybe better compared to Bitcoin is that there's no proof or no certainty that Bitcoin gonna grow another 100x.
Right.
But the carbon credit price is going to 100x. That's the World Bank predictions.
The World Bank predicted that?
Towards 2030.
Wow. Oh, so within?
So that's very soon.
Yeah.
Right? So can you imagine?
Yeah.
It's actually very exciting.
So what is how does that translate into normal everyday speak? So if it's going to go up 100 times, does that mean planting a tree goes up that much? Because obviously there's a cost to getting a land, and then it's not just planting the tree. You have to get the land. You have to do this. You have to do
and
that.
not for just 1 year.
Yeah,
because you want this tree to stay for.
It's probably 5 years until it actually offsets anything, and then after that, it's probably incremental.
Right.
So
So planting, just to answer, planting trees is great.
Yeah.
Conservating existing forest is better.
It's better,
right?
Okay.
So that's one thing that is.
Okay. Stop knocking down trees. That's the message. Okay, got it.
Not for fun, at least.
Yeah.
But then the big part is really industry transformation.
Okay.
And carbon capture.
Okay.
As what we call direct air capture, those methods.
Right.
So I will start with the direct air capture. So
what does that mean?
You're gonna basically find ways to suck in the carbon
Okay.
back into a stone, and then you're gonna have that stone, for example. That's really much like explaining that.
So you're taking it out of the air and
Yeah.
putting it into like an inanimate object that holds on.
Basically, you take the carbon, and that's
Okay.
that's like that stone,
Okay.
right? And
Oh, you
take-
solidify it.
you solidify
I
it
see.
from the air, but this consumes a lot of energy today.
Okay.
So you use oil to produce electricity that will suck in the carbon, but of course the output is bigger, right? I mean, you use less energy.
Well, that was actually going to be my next question. So you're creating carbon to take carbon away,
Mhm.
and what's the equation, right? Because now you have like the actual process of doing it, and maybe that energy, but then I'm sure you have whatever it's costing the environment and the world and the resources to create these machines that are doing that.
Yeah.
And then what are you going to do next? How do you
Right.
transport these things?
Exactly.
Like, where are you going to put them? So it's like, are people calculating that whole process, or are they just calculating the small amount and they have no idea how to capture the rest and hoping for this?
So if you ask a startup entrepreneur, they will tell you they're calculating everything
Okay.
in that space.
Okay.
But in reality, no.
So it's kind of like hoping for the best and hoping that that reduces so that it will offset everything.
Yeah.
Actually. But
So-
we don't know.
But that's a way
Yeah.
we could actually get back our climate, maybe in 50 years,
Okay.
back to something reasonable.
Okay.
This
So
is the only way, actually.
I see. So this is a real like future tech that can
This is-
help reverse.
Yeah, and this is actually
Yeah.
terraforming.
Okay.
You know, since 20 years ago, we entered that new geological era called Anthropocene,
Mm-hmm.
which was
I did not know that, but let's assume that I do.
yeah. I mean, I learned that recently as well.
So we're in a new era.
Yes, you know, Holocene and all this this era, right?
Yeah.
So we've entered this era.
I'm going back to middle school.
Yeah.
30 years ago, but yeah, keep going.
Yeah. So
I didn't realize it was
this is I think it's the Mexico summit or something that
Yeah.
decided, okay, now we're in a new era because humans are shaping
Uh-huh.
the geology itself of the planet.
I see.
So we already terraform the planet.
Right.
You know, when you mine stuff, when you change the heat of the global atmosphere,
Right.
you're changing the streams of the
Mhm.
oceans,
Mhm.
everything, right? So that have really big impact in the geology of the planet itself as well.
Okay.
And that stream of idea
Okay.
of doing direct air capture
Mm-hmm.
is actually in that direction. So since we are already, you know, in the control
Okay.
of the planet geology,
Right.
why not having technology terraforming back
Okay.
our atmosphere before the Industrial Revolution?
Okay.
Now, these are very promising technologies, but they consume energy,
Yeah.
and this energy is very expensive today.
Okay.
So that's why we can only forecast these technologies to pick up once fusion,
Mm-hmm.
nuclear fusion, for example,
Okay.
will be ready.
Right.
So which is like 15
we may
years.
have to keep that for another topic, but like this, I really want to hear because after watching that, what was that, the Bill Gates documentary on Netflix about nuclear energy, I was like, okay, tell me more. We'll do that next topic.
Yeah, and I mean, it's a super interesting topic, and we just invested into a nuclear fusion startup
really?
actually
Wow.
2 weeks ago.
Okay.
It's called Avalanche Energy,
Oh. Okay.
and they've raised $40 million, and it's very promising tech. But this is very long term,
Yeah.
right? Like this startup we invest in now,
Mm-hmm.
they might be commercialized 7-10 years from now,
Right. Okay.
right? But we wanted to be part of the game.
Good.
So yeah, fusion and a CDR, carbon direct air capture,
Okay. So
are
CDR is a carbon direct.
going together.
Okay.
Another alternative is hydro. So you know, hydropower.
Hydrogen.
No hydropower.
Okay.
You know, just lakes.
Okay.
A lot of energy is wasted sometimes because the lakes it's full.
Yeah. Okay.
And so you can have carbon direct air capture technologies plugged in
Okay.
to use that wasted energy.
Mm.
Right. Another one is flares.
Okay.
You know, for example,
No.
so when in the process of creating oil,
Okay.
you know, that's burning that flame always. You can see
Right,
in
right,
the
right,
factory
right, yeah.
that's flare,
That's flare.
and that's waste energy,
Okay.
right? That's burning all the time. So you could plug in actually
Oh, like direct
air capture to
Okay.
use that,
Got it.
and that's actually
That's
useful.
interesting.
Right.
Interesting. So you're trying to like maybe plug energy, like wasted expenditure,
Yes.
and kind of like mix it with the expenditure
Yes.
needed. So it's kind of like an energy offsetting. Right?
Yes,
Okay,
exactly.
I see what you mean.
And in that one, there is one interesting company that you can check out. It's called
Okay.
Climeworks.
Climb works.
Yes.
Okay.
So they are not offsetting the carbon by planting trees,
Okay.
but by doing direct air capture.
Got it. Okay.
Very interesting one. So they have these basically vacuum systems that are sucking in the air
Okay.
and taking the carbon out of the air, and they are doing that in Iceland, where there is the geothermal energy,
Okay.
and that is a good one
Oh.
because you know this is
It's
geothermal
already-
energy
yeah.
is there,
Yeah.
and that's not using oil.
Natural heater. It's happening.
Exactly.
We can't shut it off. Okay. Got
So
it.
Climeworks have raised I think $600 million.
Wow. Okay.
And that's going to be one of the largest carbon trading platform,
Okay.
as well as carbon offsetting technology available.
Fantastic.
And that's a new market that you will see. You will pay your subscription for Climeworks 1 or 2 years from now.
So I'm gonna see it.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be a part of it. I'm gonna subscribe to it. That's great. So what you're saying is people are already working on tackling the problem. That it's not just about planting trees, but it's really about reversing some of the carbon stuff.
Yeah.
So I guess what I want to know from an everyday person, because I'm a dad. So number one, I want to make sure I have enough money to take care of my daughter, give her nice things, blah blah blah, do this, do that. I also want to teach her responsibility,
Right.
and I also understand that okay, you do something wrong, it's uncomfortable and inconvenient to fix it, but that's part of responsibility. That's part of fixing things, and I think this is the solution for kind of like undoing some of the mess, is to create an inconvenient and an annoying solution that is probably how we're gonna stop wasting, right? To like pare it back. But that doesn't seem part of the argument now. So this is why I wanted to talk about carbon offsetting, right? So you gave me some good insights that there are some good options.
There
are
is-
some good companies that are doing
But
it.
don't worry, there is also that annoying solution. Welcome to tax world.
Yeah, right? So taxes are going to start. Okay.
Yes.
Got it.
This is an article we wrote on our newsletter where
Okay.
you can check out. There's the release date
Mhm.
of the taxes per country,
Okay.
so you can already know where it's that coming.
Well,
As
real estate
individuals,
prices already hitting.
as individuals, people should not care that much.
Okay.
But it's more for companies. You know, this really gonna hit the P&L 10-30% for the most polluting one. 30% of the P&L.
I mean, I don't think it's that people don't care. It's that there's not like a clear direction that's doing anything.
Right.
On a macro scale.
Right.
It's like I can like if I really enjoy composting, doing all of this stuff, and I'm also attractive and I can video myself doing it and put it on YouTube, of course I'm going to do it, right?
Right.
And then it's going to create this engine that is also leading me to other stuff. But like, look at me, nobody wants to see my video. So I want to do stuff.
People
that,
do, at least they are watching.
So that's why it's like it's hard for me to get into that on a micro scale because I'm like, well, nobody else is doing it,
Yeah.
and then these companies are not really doing it.
Yeah.
So
And
this is-
you should not care as much as the companies. It's one very big fact I want to share,
right.
and I want you to remember that and,
Please,
and
yeah.
tell that to your wife and your friends, is that actually the concept itself of carbon footprint for individuals
Yeah.
has been invented by BP's, the oil company,
Okay. All right.
20 years ago,
Right.
as a
Interesting.
way to divert the attention out of them.
you serious?
Yes.
Oh,
They have
that's so
spent
interesting.
$30 million in that campaign. You can Google it. You will like all the details.
It's worth a lot now. Okay.
So that's because at the moment where people started to talk about climate change, etc. And of course BP was on target, and so they've spent
Harder with the marketing. I don't know.
They spend that money to create this concept of calculate your own carbon footprint as an individual.
Okay.
And they've hired influencers, TV hosts, etc. to create that new thing. And so this is kind of a trap, which all of us are right now.
Right.
But you don't know it's a trap until you learn that actually this concept have been created by the oil company.
But is it true, or is it
just forget it?
Okay, so I'm going to look this up. Because what I find as an everyday person is you care about something, it gets complicated, and you're like, all right, let me change the subject in my head, because I'm not helping. There's no need to carry guilt around if I'm not doing it.
Right.
So you tend to kind of like walk away from kind of this issue, kind of like shut a blind eye and hope somebody you trust will tell you exactly what to do later.
Right.
And then it keeps getting more and more complicated,
Right.
So it's like, I guess the reason I wanted to ask you is like, what can I do now? That's like, if it's either not helping the environment, it's helping the companies who are actually trying to tackle the environment. It actually gave me some interesting companies to look up.
Yeah, so the issue with that carbon footprint thing is it makes people believe that their own action matter as much as the action of 100,000 people company. And that's the issue.
Okay.
Because then that's the door open for those companies to keep doing what they've been doing.
So
and through lobbying, not change.
Well, it makes perfect. So the companies are trying to make us believe that we're the low-hanging fruit to change.
Yes.
And actually, we're not.
And then people start to be vegan because they think, eating meat is gonna save the planet.
Right.
Not eating meat, which is great, but not compared to making BP stop doing what they do.
Okay.
For example.
Right.
And I think this is that change of perception that have been created and that we need to demystify with a hammer right now. So nobody cares if you are offsetting your carbon. Actually, nobody should.
What about my cat?
Nobody should care if your cat is zero carbon offset.
It doesn't mean anything.
It's not useful.
Right.
And the infinitesimal, micro, nano, help that this can do.
I wasn't expecting this conversation to go in this direction. Okay. All right. Interesting.
It's not gonna save your children.
Yeah.
And that is the issue for me.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a radical.
Yeah.
I think like that. Many people wouldn't agree, but that's what I believe. I think, and if you look at data, in terms of carbon, if you're becoming vegan or offsetting your carbon or whatever things you are doing, not taking the plane, is not going to have any impact compared to investing in climate solutions, for example.
So
And this is the real game, actually. There is a graph on our website where you can see the calculated tons of carbon you avoid per year by doing different things. One is driving an electric car, one is not eating beef, another one is, do up that list. And you can really see, I think it's being vegan is 0. It's like 200 kilograms.
So it doesn't mean it's not. It is technically good for the environment.
It is, but it's so small.
Perhaps might be good for your health.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
For your community,
Absolutely.
this and that. Yeah, that's great.
Yeah,
but I think what you're saying is to offset the world's carbon.
Yeah,
it's not a good reason to do.
Yes,
It's like that can be an added bonus.
Yeah.
bigger part of why you're doing something.
Yeah.
So that shouldn't be the real reason.
Exactly.
If you're going to jump into an action to do that, it should be to help reduce these companies' carbon footprint.
You can do that.
Okay.
The only thing you can do is voting with your money.
Okay.
When you decide to place your money into a bank,
Okay.
you give that bank the power to invest in companies doing good and bad things.
Right.
The only power you have is your money.
Okay.
You have zero other power.
Okay.
Even your political power, I think we can discuss that. But really, your power is your money.
Right.
When you buy
Okay.
a product
Yeah.
from a company,
Mhm.
you're voting for that company.
Got it.
When you decide to put your money into the bank,
Okay.
in your saving account, you are actually having more impact
Mm-hmm.
if this money is used for the climate
Right.
rather than traditionally, all these companies.
Okay.
Because yes, that's pretty much it. Your power
Right.
is your money.
Right. Okay. Makes sense. Makes sense. So invest in climate change solutions.
Or just choose to invest in a bank
Yeah.
that is not contributing to finance the
And how do we
carbon
find,
wars.
how do we find out about that?
Every bank have reports on where their portfolio is,
Okay.
right? So there's a bank that got famous, a new bank, it's like a neo bank, to only borrow money to companies that were positive for the climate.
Okay.
That's an example.
Okay.
Right. Not everybody can invest in climate tech solutions. Not every climate tech solution is actually really good and useful.
Right.
There's also a lot of random stuff there.
Right. Intentional or not, there's a lot of bogus stuff.
A lot of bogus, exactly. But yeah, your money is really what you can do to influence how the world gonna go. Not offsetting your carbon,
Okay.
not
got
taking
it.
less the plane.
Okay.
Of course, if you take the plane every day or every month or something, right? Like Elon Musk taking
If I have
the
a
plane.
private jet, I mean, I think I've flown once in the last 3 years, so it's fine.
Yeah, no, I mean, there is balance, right? Of course, I'm not saying taking the plane is good and we should keep taking the plane all the time, right? I'm not supporting Elon Musk taking a 9-minute flight. You saw that on Twitter yesterday.
I didn't, but
From San Francisco to San Jose.
I heard.
This is ridiculous.
I heard some other celebrities doing it.
But
and this is another thing. Like I can easily jump on any bandwagon and be angry at people, but I don't know. I don't know how it fits into the big scheme of things. Or is it a distraction? Right. Well, we're targeting one individual with a lot of money.
I think it's a distraction.
Okay.
And this is again a distraction, which should not be on Elon Musk, but should be on the companies that are polluting the most.
Exactly, right? So it's like we can probably keep drilling down to see if they're bad or if they're good, and I'm sure whatever way you go into that conversation, you're going to exit that with the same opinion, right?
Yes.
But that's not the point, right? The point is let's focus on what's moving the needle,
Yes.
good or bad. And big corporations that are big polluters, whether they're buying offsets or not, they're moving the needle in the wrong direction. Climate technology, and just as a community in general, the financing behind them, the infrastructure behind that, it's not just one company in general, but the whole community of them. They're the ones pushing the needle in the other direction. So we have
These are people that decided to quit their corporate high-paying jobs to start something that is meaningful for them, sacrificing a couple of years of salaries, dedicated their life to this. Not everybody is like that, but I think generally we're talking about something very serious here. It's very annoying to think about the climate every day.
Yeah.
So if there is 1,000 guys doing this, guys and girls, I think we should help them.
And I think we're all starting to feel it, right? It's like you're getting weird weather at weird times. Prices are going up because there's shortages. Blah 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 blah. So it's like you're in that situation. You're like, oh, climate change, it's real, and you get that weird pang of anxiety, holy crap, this could happen. And then you go into an air-conditioned room, or you go into some other setting where it's like you're absolved of all those anxieties again because you're distracted.
Yeah.
Because again, we have this engine that's distracting us from what we're supposed to be.
What we're supposed to do,
right?
And what we're supposed to be
It's
doing
really good.
is
It's
uniting,
really good. Yeah.
rather than comparing our carbon footprint. Right? Saying, oh, you took the plane 2 times. Oh, you have a big carbon footprint. That's why this is negative to me.
This is just divisive.
This is
banter.
toxic.
So and this is about, if I'm hearing you correctly, this is kind of like dividing us so that we don't come together to do something together, right?
And actually lobby
Yeah.
to these companies to change.
Right.
That's the thing that I don't like about this carbon offsetting
So
and this carbon.
I'm with you on this.
The only way to make change is to unite,
Right.
and this thing is dividing us basically.
So how do we do that? Because again, the marketing for offsetting, the market for climate change, feel guilty, offset your own stuff is really good.
Yeah.
It's really good. I see it all
And-
over the place. But
And I'm not saying we should not do that.
yeah,
It's part of the solution.
but I think people have limited resources. So if you have $10 million, you can do that. Plus, you can do a bunch of other stuff. But I think some people maybe have $1,000 extra, maybe $100, maybe $10, if they're lucky. They want to make that meaningful for something.
Yeah.
So it's like, how do they do the things you're saying, or at least how do they start?
Yeah. So number one, still doing that carbon offsetting. If the projects are correct,
Yeah.
it's a good 30% of the solution.
Okay.
The other 30% is supporting those innovations in direct air capture, for example. But there's many natural-based solutions as well.
Okay.
So just being a customer of these companies,
Yeah.
because voting with your money
Mhm.
is the biggest power you have, is the thing.
Okay.
I think that's really it, right? So we talked about Climeworks, but there's so many companies,
Yeah.
and actually you can find some in the book, but we will try to interview more and more into our channel as well,
Right.
with our Atlas channel. So this, supporting these companies by buying their product
Mhm.
is basically voting for them, encouraging them to continue growing,
Okay.
and offsetting carbon.
Okay. I like that.
But the third one is really uniting to make change and to
Right.
pressure companies to change.
Right.
Because that carbon offsetting thing right now is just giving them more time to keep doing business as usual. So I think the answer is really political,
Okay.
but I don't think policy as of today is actually capable of uniting people fast enough.
Right.
So you gotta look at different aspects, different ways, right? There is communities that are created around topics, and they are doing crowdfunding, for example. There are lists of companies that are supporting that transition,
Right.
that you can support by investing in them or by
See, this is also a really good point because I never think about going into communities and investing in them doing what they're doing. So
what I was about to say is the best way to do that is actually to not invest
Oh, really? Okay.
in the companies you don't support.
I was saying communities.
So these are they are communities that will tell you, okay, these are the 100 companies that are polluting the most.
Right.
Just by actually not buying from these companies,
Yeah.
you are doing the biggest
That's all you have
effort
to
to
do.
the planet already.
Okay.
Just by not buying these types of products,
Okay.
because again, your power is your money. That's your vote.
That's a good point. Yeah.
So not buying that type of product or not boycotting this type of companies
Okay.
is the way,
Okay.
I think. And that's only if you unite, if enough customers are not buying from this company,
Right.
then that company crash. Look at GameStop, right? GameStop was a really great example of how manipulate capitalism against itself for good reason.
Right.
GameStop, game over, right? And that's an example where people unite.
I see.
They can make for anybody. So tomorrow, if a group of people create a committee around the same values of protecting the planet,
Okay.
they can all decide to remove the stocks they have in BP.
I like that. Yeah. Okay.
30% drop in a day.
Mm-hmm.
BP changed.
Yeah.
Period.
Yeah. That's a good point.
There's no government that's gonna
That's a good
force
point.
BP to change.
Right.
There's no law
Yeah.
or taxes that are gonna be not lobbied.
Okay.
That's gonna be strong enough to make companies like BP to change. But your money can.
Now I'm just trying to get my head around this because we've gone from carbon offsetting to something totally different, which is basically like a 3 or 4 part movement. How this is actually going to work. Thank you. This is really good.
I don't know if it's a movement, but it's just looking at how really save the planet, right? And when people say save the planet, I don't really like it anymore.
Okay.
Because the planet gonna be fine with or without us.
Okay. Well, it's saving it from ourselves, right?
So we're just saving our civilization here.
Okay, I see.
Right. And I think the matter here is we all have self-interest. We all want to, make more money, have more everything.
Right.
And so it's normal that those companies are trying to keep their profit going up. Right, and they're trying to buy more time with carbon offsetting to keep polluting without changing. It's normal. That's how capitalism works.
I love what you just said, which is it's not about saving the planet; it's about saving our civilization. Right. That I think is a really important distinction because I don't think about it that way. I do think about it as saving the planet. Yeah, I want the planet to be at a certain temperature, but the planet's fine whether it's a little bit hotter or a little bit colder. It'll work itself out. Right?
The planet's gonna be fine.
We won't be fine if those things happen. And that's what we're really trying to do, which is like keep our way of life as close to how it is right now as possible. That's good insight. Thank you.
So that's where I think boycotting companies, the bad ones, uniting to boycott those bad companies to make them change because we need energy, we need BP, everybody needs electricity, so. It's not about just canceling that company, right? You can't. But it's about putting pressure on the company
so that they make the changes that it's important.
Yes. And we talk about BP today I quote them so many times, but maybe we should talk about other companies, right? But it's just that specifically that one have created that very concept of carbon footprint.
I see.
And I think this is quite demonic. This is quite demonic for them to create that concept.
Well, I don't know if it's demonic. I mean, if you look at a business and how it does come up with these things in the first place. I don't believe the guy in the boardroom that's saying let's make people stupider by doing this. I think there's incentives on how do we push our bottom line, and somebody comes up with an idea and that gets taken and extrapolated, and then it gets,
I wouldn't be that naive.
Yeah.
Not that you're naive, Raj. I know you're not.
I'm here because I'm naive in some ways, but I guess what I'm saying is by calling these people evil, it doesn't look into kind of like the everyday situations that turn into evil deeds. Right? So it's it's not just one person or one board company that's is evil, we gotta get rid of them. It's this happens in everyday life where we're just pushing the needle to get a promotion or to not get fired.
Really that practice of using marketing to confuse people is the same marketing that have been used in cigarette promotion.
Yeah, but there's also marketing that goes into convincing the employees of these companies that this is okay. Right? And this is there's another layer behind that. And it's if we have to look at the complexities of these things. Maybe the solution is not so complex, but I think understanding how bad things happen in complex ways realizes any one of us can contribute to something bad happening.
There's not one dude who is.
It's not because you don't care that bad things happen. Sometimes you do care, but you're on autopilot in some ways that are actually undoing all the good you're doing in your other life, right?
It's true. It's not just one evil dude who've done that. It's the
whole
flow
system.
of things.
Yes, it's the flow of the system.
Yeah. But happened that they did.
Yeah.
Happened that this is confusing people now.
Yeah.
And
but it's good to identify it the way you did, right? Like, oh, this was made to do exactly what it's doing, right?
Yeah.
And it's working, and now there's marketing around it, and let's not subscribe to that, right? Okay, we can do it, but only because we want to do it, and we're going to work on something else.
Right. I think today, what answering your question about carbon offsetting, Raj, my suggestion is not to not do it.
Yeah.
My suggestion is to do it, but on top of that, boycott the companies that are polluting the most. That's the biggest offset you can do.
Okay.
And support companies that you think are doing great stuff for the climate by being the customer.
Right.
I think that's it.
Those are simple things I could do. Thank you.
Yeah. But this is a complicated topic, and I think people start to wake up.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people start to realize, hearing all these crazy stories of one tree sold 5 times and stuff. So people are not stupid, right? They will see through. But on the other side, I'm scared that people will not do carbon offsetting at all because of those abuses.
Well, okay, what's happening with me now after talking with you is I want to go research. And I realize, like, I'm not going to go on the internet and find just a list of things that I can do without thinking, and then I'm going to feel better. I have to research, and I think that's kind of what's happening here is like people need to add this to their everyday energy expenditure. They have to think critically about this topic because it's becoming bigger and bigger and bigger. So it's not just something we can leave to somebody else to just do for us. And we just take our excess savings and give it them.
And guess what? The price of energy gonna push you to actually offset your carbon,
right?
Because you want to save money on your electricity bill.
Yeah, of course.
So, for example, buying solar panel for your home, which, by the way, is helping reducing the oil consumed to produce electricity, because most of the electricity you buy from your state electricity producer is from coal or oil, right, or gas. So because the price of that electricity is climbing up, you are going to be incentivized as a rational economic consumer to get your own solar panel, right? And that's when I was saying support companies that are doing stuff for renewable and climate change. Okay, this is it. Okay, for example, buying your own solar panel and trying to, get maybe 50% of your energy produced locally by your own home, if possible, is already a bigger offset than just paying a random, tree planting startup, whatever.
And also, don't drive 30 minutes to get a coffee and come home.
But
Change your habits.
I even that compared to really what we talked
just
about.
The cost of driving out of your way is going up because of climate change, right? And the cost
but what I meant is even that is fine.
Yeah.
Like we should take hot shower. We should take the plane.
We should showers. Please keep taking
we
showers.
should eat meat. It's fine.
If you like meat,
right? It's just you can do that, but also you buy solar panels and you invest
and you do these other things as well,
and you don't buy stocks of BP. Right? So that's
until they change. Maybe they change.
Yeah, and they are starting to change. These brilliant people, in this company and this new generation of Gen Y, Greta, Gen Z are hardcore.
Yeah, they are.
So they are making these company changes, and thanks God. But the key is just there's that inertia that is created by this illusion that offset gonna be fine. Where in reality you're not removing carbon, you're just avoiding this carbon to be burnt or cut. Right. So I think that's the thing. No, I'm very, very excited for that movement of awareness.
Right.
I'm really happy people are starting to do that, and I hope everybody will pay $20 a month to offset their carbon. But I'm saying on top of that, they should also boycott companies that are doing the bad stuff,
Right.
and invest in products that are in renewables, so that they can actually offset their own carbon for free.
Yeah.
And keep taking planes.
Keep
And
taking
hot
planes.
showers.
Hot showers. And keep driving to your heart's content. I like it. I like it.
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks, man. Really appreciate it.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, so that was it.
Yeah.
Great talk. Let's do more of these
Definitely.
drinks.
I'll make sure this is a little bigger.